Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Chargers Analytics with Arjun. I'm so excited to be here and to be able to produce content for you guys. And before I start the video, I want to give a huge thank you to Steven, Alex, and Tyler for bringing me aboard and being able to produce episodes for you guys and to show you guys a new way of looking at football, which is from like an analytical perspective. So again, thank you to those three, and I'm super excited to get to work. So now a quick disclaimer before I start my episode. Analytics itself on its own is not the best way to really evaluate a football team or a football player. There has to be some combination of analytics and film to truly and properly evaluate a player. And so that is where I'm coming in. I'm trying to bring an analytical background into the podcast and to be able to help some of the guys out with giving some statistical breakdowns on players and teams and showing trends and patterns. But I mean, all three of the guys are great guys at breaking down film. And I know we just added Brad Kelly as well, who is an awesome guy at breaking down film. So make sure you're using a combination of both when you're trying to evaluate a player or a team. Now, with that being said, I'm super excited to get into our first topic today, which is going to be early down pass rate. So we're going to be looking at the early down pass rate for the Chargers in the 2020 season. Now, I chose this topic because I felt it is one of the most important topics going into the 2021 season, right? Early down pass rate directly relates to Justin Herbert. And we know Justin Herbert is going to be the focal point of this offense. So we need to put the ball in his hands as much as possible, and especially on early downs. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I'm going to take you guys through my thought process with this. So in this graph right here, we are looking at the early down pass rate for the 2020 season. So let me explain how this is calculated. So early down pass rate is looking at, how many times a team passes the ball on first and second down. So this is calculated by taking the number of times a team drops back. So it can be any quarterback on the team. The amount of times they drop back on first and second down exclusively, divided by the number of plays a team runs throughout a whole season on first and second down. So as you can see here, the Buffalo Bills are number 1, the Steelers are number 2, and the Texans are number 3. So I'm going to zoom in for you guys to see this a little bit better. So as you can see right here, the Chargers sit right between the Bears and the Lions in early down pass rate in 2020. So they actually ranked 19th last year on early down pass rate. And ultimately, this is not a good number for the Chargers to be at. Now, again, we did have Anthony Lynn as our head coach. We had Shane Steichen as our offensive coordinator. We know Anthony Lynn believes in establishing the run. When you establish the run, you get the play action going, you can get passes going. But, analytics have shown that you don't need to establish the run to be able to, run play action effectively. So that thought process was already flawed. Now, again, this number is not where it needs to be. And if you look at, the top 5, you have Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Houston, Kansas City, and Seattle, right? I'm gonna zoom in again. If when we talk about the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL right now, number 1 is Mahomes. Arguably number 2 is Deshaun Watson when he's playing. Number 3, you could throw in Aaron Rodgers, but 4 and 5 are Josh Allen and Russell Wilson. So 4 of the top 5 teams in early down pass rate have a top 5 quarterback. They know that putting the ball in the best player on their offense's hands as much as possible directly leads to more success, right? There's also a reason 4 of the top 5 teams in early down pass rate made the playoffs, and Houston had a top 10 offense. They just couldn't supplant it with the top 10 defense, right? So that is a little bit of, where the Chargers ranked in terms of pass frequency, pass rate last year. I also put a 5% to 95% win probability. So what this does is anytime a team has less than a 5% win probability or more than a 95% win probability, they won't count these stats into this graph because, either the team is blowing their opponent out or they're getting blown out like the Chargers were against the Patriots, like 45-0. So you might not see, some of those stats count towards this graph, but it is a good way to measure how well a team is in the game and if the game is still competitive. So next thing I want to talk about is it's one thing to pass the ball a lot on early downs, but it's another thing to be effective. So we're going to be looking at early down rushing and passing efficiency for the 2020 season. So the statistic I'm going to use for this is EPA per play. EPA in the football world stands for expected points added. And we're going to be looking at it from a per play basis, because that's a better way to, really value efficiency. If you look at like total EPA, you might see teams that have more plays run, they have a higher total EPA. But when you look at per play, it's on a per play basis. It's a better way to really evaluate teams and its efficiency. So again, the Chargers ranked 19th in early down pass rate. But when we look at, their EPA, when they pass the ball, they rank 10th. They rank 10th when they pass the ball on early downs in expected points added, right? That's pretty good. They have a top 10 passing offense on early downs. But when we run the ball on early downs, we rank 24. We add negative 0.134 points per play on early downs when we ran the ball in 2020. That's horrible. I mean, that is not good. We had a way below rushing attack last year. And again, rushing is not necessarily an indication of how good or how bad, the Chargers running back room was. I mean, Austin Eckler, Joshua Kelly, Justin Jackson, Kalen Ballage, this does not directly correlate to them. It is more of the offensive line's fault, bad play calling that directly led to this ranking. So when you have a team that ranks 10th in passing the ball on early downs versus a team, ranking 24th on rushing the ball in early downs, and you proceed to pass it at the 19th highest rate in the league, that needs to change. And that to me is going to be the biggest indicator of whether or not the Chargers will be truly able to compete next year. Now, if you see who's number one, it's Buffalo, right? Josh Allen had an incredible third year. And there's a reason most, if not all, Chargers fans had Brian Daboll as their number one guy. Brian Daboll, he knows that passing the ball on early downs is more effective than running the ball on early downs. There's a reason he passed it like 18 straight times to start the game against the Baltimore Ravens. He knows the analytics behind it. He knows that passing is more efficient than rushing. Now, I'm not saying we need to put Justin Herbert in that situation to start the game with 18 straight passes. But to me, for the Chargers to truly be effective next year, they have to be within this top 10. Let's look at, like, if we look at the conference championship teams, Buffalo is number one in early down pass rate. Chiefs are 4. Bucks are 9th with, 44-year-old Tom Brady. And the Packers ranked 14th, but they also have one of the best offensive lines in the league, and they can actually, run the ball effectively, more than the Chargers, right? And if we look at like the last place teams, Tennessee and Buffalo are there. But Tennessee has a workhorse running back that can't be duplicated in the NFL. There is no other Derrick Henry, and there probably never will be ever again, right? And Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, you want to put the ball in his hands in open space. So those are not the best ways to look at it. But I'm going to point something out. Tennessee ran the ball at the highest rate on early downs, but they also had the highest efficiency when throwing the ball. And that is why I believe Arthur Smith is going to would be a great fit for the Chargers, because, when he does pass the ball in early downs, he is pretty effective. But I hope that gave a little bit of an insight into the Chargers in 2020. But we don't have Anthony Lynn anymore. We don't have Shane Steichen anymore. We have Brandon Staley. And who's his offensive coordinator? Joe Lombardi. So the next 4 graphs I'm going to show you are going to take a look at Joe Lombardi's stints when he's with the Saints from 2019 to 2020, 2016 to 2018, and his first stint with the Saints from 2009 to 2013. So pretty much the first Super Bowl to the time he left for Detroit. And the final graph I'm going to show you is his early down pass rate when he was in Detroit as their offensive coordinator. Okay, so this is the graph for early down pass rate for the entire NFL from 2019 to 2020. Now, I'm showing you this graph because I want you to understand that it is not necessarily a great indicator of what Joe Lombardi is going to do. Last year and this year showed that Drew Brees was getting injured more often. He was showing signs of declining arm talent, right? He pretty much almost lost them the last 2 playoffs. He just couldn't throw the ball. And the Saints knew that. So they reduced his workload, and they ranked near the middle of the pack in early down pass rate, right? So that is from 2019 to 2020. They rank near the middle. And again, more of an indication that Drew Brees is declining. His arm strength is, waning, and he just isn't the same player that he once was. But when we look at 2016 to 2018, they do get a little bit closer to, the top 10. And if you see from 2016 to 2018, they actually ranked 11th in early down pass rate. Now, this graph right here is, it shows a year-to-year breakdown of where they ranked. So actually in 2016, they ranked in that top 10 in early down pass rate. In 2016, Drew Brees was still the gunslinger that we all know him as. He's going to throw for over 5,000 yards in one season. But in 2017, right, they had the rushing attack, Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram. Same thing with 2018. They had that, lightning and thunder combo of Ingram and Kamara. So they toned back Brees's workload a little bit to save him for the playoffs. But again, 2016 is a good indicator of where, Joe Lombardi could be with the Chargers. Now, I'm going to go to his first stint with the Saints, which is right here. And this is why I'm high on Joe Lombardi going into the season and why I'm sticking with my belief that he will be a great offensive coordinator. From 2009 to 2013, Joe Lombardi was the quarterback's coach for the Saints. 2009, that was coming off their first Super Bowl. And as you can see, in this 4-year period, they ranked first in early down pass rate. And again, this was a time where Drew Brees was slinging the ball at a very high rate, throwing for over 5,000 yards almost every single season, right? They ranked first in early down pass rate. This is a great sign for Chargers fans, in my opinion. And mind you, Brees was in the prime of his career. Justin Herbert is entering the prime of his career, and he has still so much room to grow. Right? We saw flashes of him being a top 5, top 3 quarterback last year, coupled with moments where he was looking lost and confused. Right? When he played the Patriots, when he played the Dolphins, he was going against like 2 of the top defensive minds in the league, and he struggled. Right? But was Anthony Lynn or Shane Steichen a really good, were they good coaches to him that helped him figure out defenses? It's tough to tell. It really is. But I really believe in Brandon Staley. He was a quarterback. He has stated over and over, he wants to show Justin Herbert, the quarterback's view from a defensive perspective. Staley is going to teach Justin Herbert about disguises, and Staley is an innovator. So you're going to see a much different Justin Herbert next year, coupled, hopefully, with an aerial attack, especially on early downs. Because let's put it this way. Do we want Justin Herbert to be in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 situations? No. Why would we want him to do that? We want him to get ahead of the sticks. We want to put him on, at most, maybe 3rd and 4 situations, right? If we pass the ball in early downs, it's much more efficient than running the ball, right? As seen by look at the graphs. Almost every single team has a higher dropback EPA versus rushing EPA. Why would we want Justin Herbert to run? Why would we want the Chargers to run the ball on early downs when they can pass it at a higher rate and be more efficient with it, get ahead of the sticks, potentially convert first downs on second down or even first down, right? That is ultimately where Anthony Lynn failed. He put too much on Justin Herbert's plate, especially on 3rd down. That is why you hear PFF talk about, Justin Herbert isn't going to regress. He was so good on 3rd downs that that is not sustainable, but that is not on him. That is more of an indication of the coaching staff. So again, in Joe Lombardi's first stint as a QB coach for the Saints ranked first in early down pass rate, which is a great sign. Now, again, why do people hate on Joe Lombardi? Well, they look at his work when he was the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. But even when he was the OC for the Detroit Lions, the Lions ranked 4th in early down pass rate. In the 2 years he was the offensive coordinator for them, they ranked 4th in early down pass rate. And this is, mind you, when Matthew Stafford is entering his prime, 5 to 6 years in the league, they put him in situations to succeed, ranking 4th in early down pass rate. Now, what else can we say? Joe Lombardi, even when he was put in a role, he was calling the plays, he ranked 4th. And that to me is the best indication that we're going to see a much more energetic Chargers offense. We're going to see potentially a top 5 offense next year if they stay healthy, if that offensive line stays healthy, right? And we see in the graph, they actually increased their early down pass rate from Joe Lombardi's first year to Joe Lombardi's second year. Now, I will admit, I watched a little bit of the Lions film from 2014 and 2015. A lot of the play calls by Joe Lombardi were screens. They were bubble screens, short passes. But he has stated that he has learned from that experience, that he's not going to try to force the Saints offense onto the Chargers, right? Matthew Stafford and Justin Herbert are very similar, big arms, but Justin Herbert does have a little bit more mobility. So that opens up the playbook more for Lombardi to call more plays and to call more schemed routes for some of the receivers like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. So with that being said, to summarize everything we've gone through, the Saints the past 5 years have still ranked in the top half of early down pass rate. But when we looked at, the first stint for Joe Lombardi as quarterbacks coach, they ranked first. When he was offensive coordinator, they ranked fourth, right? So just expect to see a little bit more passing on early downs from the Chargers. And hopefully this leads to more offensive success overall for the Chargers going into the 2021 season. Now, with that being said, that actually takes us to the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a topic that's really important for me and something I'm really passionate about, because this will lead to more offensive success for Justin Herbert and for the entire Chargers team in general. And believe me, when we get Justin Herbert the ball more on early downs and put him in positions to succeed, we will see more signs of success and hopefully less blown leads in the future. Make sure to comment any specific topics or trends you want me to talk about. I'd love to get into some of these fan-related ideas in the future. And with that being said, as always, bolts up.